subscribe, support, stay positive. This is an assault beta based off a World War I anti-tank cartridge.
Tommy, what are you doing?
I'm pretending to be Burt Gummer.
Oh, why are you pretending to be Burt Gummer?
Because this is Movie Review! Ooh. So why are we here today, Crystal?
Reviewing Tremmors 2.
Aftershocks!
Nice.
So the premise starts off after the first movie, after all the attacks, pretty much, Kevin Bacon's not in this one. He has actually run off, he's gotten married, and now it's the two, now who is...
I don't know the actors' names, but I like them. I actually like all the actors in this film, even though it's kind of a B-movie. And
yes,
for a B-movie horror comedy genre, it's actually not too shabby. I mean, they didn't overdo the crappy CGI. It was made in '98, so, wasn't really going to be that great anyway.
Yeah.
And there were a couple silly parts, yes, but overall, it's enjoyable.
Yes, it is. It's enjoyable. I grew up watching this film when I was a little kid. I used to watch this over 100 times.
Yes, he memorized the lines. He was finishing the lines for the actors, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's how much of a geek I am.
Which I can't say much because I've seen Joe Dirt with David Spade like 8 times, so I don't know. To each his own. You know what? There are a few scenes that I really like in this movie. I like the characters. I love the part where the character of Bert is introduced for the first time in the second film. We've already seen him before in the first one, but he has a bunch of like deer heads mounted on his wall and boar head. Then the camera pans away and you see this giant graboid head that he had killed on it. I really like that. I was like, that's pretty cool.
That's a brilliant way to introduce Burt Gummer. Burt Gummer, if you don't know who Burt Gummer is a major gun guy. Guns everywhere. Explosives.
I mean, he had like a military truck. What's the truck?
It's a deuce and a half. That's where I fell in love with deuce and a halves. Because
that's cool.
First time I ever saw it was Burt Gummer was driving a deuce and a half, and I always wanted a deuce and a half with a bunch of explosives and guns in the back of it.
He had everything you could imagine in that car, in that truck.
Is there anything such as a low explosive? Yes.
Yes, there
is. This is the new kid. That's the funniest part in the movie. One of the funniest parts in the movie. He's like, so this is the new kid? He's like, yes.
And the new kid was, I don't know, he's likable. His name is Grady, but he's kind of an idiot at the same time. Like, he's helpful. He definitely is helpful, but he makes some really stupid mistakes. Like, it's been well established by all of the characters that these creatures can detect people by, the noise they make on the ground, and he insists multiple times on standing on the ground, and he's got people around him going, get off the ground, and he's just standing there. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, at least we're not ignoring the fact that he's being an idiot in the movie, so okay.
Now, here's the thing. In the movie, the actors are paid, the characters are paid money by this oil refinery. Now, it's in Mexico, as they call it, Mexico. And
as they call it. You mean they're Mexico's native people?
Yeah, Mexico. Welcome to Mexico's oil refinery. We thank you for coming down.
Close enough. Yeah, so,
Sorry.
Strange car going down the driveway.
Squirrel!
Shiny!
Shiny!
So since we are critics, I'm going to get to the part that I think is probably most obvious flaw in the movie, in the plot, which is that in Tremmors 2, the woman scientists, she establishes that these creatures are eons old, like older than dinosaurs, hundreds of millions of years old. Then why haven't we been seeing graboids for millennia? I mean, these things can't stay hidden. They have to eat something. You can't have something of this magnitude living underground on Earth, literally for the entire existence of humanity, and nobody know about them.
Well, here's the thing. Things hibernate, and maybe...
No, it's impossible, I'm telling you.
There's nothing. There's nothing you say that possibly could hibernate. Possibly.
Not for that long.
Not for that long.
And they actually also established that they were from Earth. That was part of their scientific discoveries, that they weren't aliens. So if these things have been living on Earth, and so they, they operate like creatures that are from Earth operate, then they would have to eat. And they wouldn't be able to hibernate more than, a couple of years at best.
Yeah.
And then so, because they were Earth-born, the other weird thing is that when they gave birth, to the second things, when they break open and the walking guys would come out.
Shriekers.
The Shriekers. It's like, okay, so they're just seeing them reproduce for the first time, so they never reproduced before. And then, so the Shriekers are hermaphrodites. They're asexual. So they don't have to have sex to puke up their babies. Well, that doesn't make sense either. Because even asexual producing animals like frogs have genitals.
Yes.
So these things have no genitals, and they eat food, and they feed their
genitals.
Baby. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Not as far as creatures on Earth operate. Wouldn't happen. But other than that, I really don't have any complaints. That is kind of a big oversight.
Yeah.
Still enjoyable movie.
One of the things is me and Crystal were counting up how much each the characters, I can't remember the name. I was trying to remember the name of the two. Now there's Grady, and then there's also Hal. Is that Al?
Earl?
Earl. Now Earl and them he's trying to get him on a level to teach him how to graboid hunt properly. Graboid hunt, which we're seeing for the first time.
Yeah, because the government in Mexico, because they were attacking on an oil refinery, offered Earl $50,000 per graboid that he killed. They killed a lot of graboids.
Yes.
They all got really rich.
How much?
Well, just Earl, we counted that Earl and Grady got up to like $700,000 on their own. And then Bert went and killed like 21 of the Shriekers all at once. So yeah, they got filthy rich, which was pretty cool. And the ending of the film is actually pretty cool. I like the part, even though it's like the weirdest, craziest, most unlikely coincidence ever, the female character in the movie that Earl kind of ends up having a romance with at the end, ends up being Mrs. October's 1974 that he's had on his wall for years. But it's just years later, and now she's retired from being a Playboy model, and she's a archaeologist, geologist, biologist kind of person, which is also very unlikely.
Just a question for you. Remember the pose she was giving?
Yes, I do.
Can you demonstrate that pose?
Screw you. Anyway, Mr. Go off of topic whenever possible. So lastly, my question about this movie is, I think you mentioned this actually, and that was a good point, that if the Shriekers, the walking graboids, if they can reproduce just by eating, and then they puke a baby up, how would they know for certain that they had killed them all? Even after they blew up the building.
Yes.
They assumed that all the creatures were in that building.
Yes.
So I guess it can be assumed that after the explosion happened, they went around looking for more creatures to kill them just in case. Because apparently all those things had to do was eat, and then they could puke up a baby.
Of course, in part 3, it opens up with Burt Gummer. He's showing off to this news station, and all these Shriekers are running at him. He pulls out this big gun and he starts killing them all. But that kind of adds up to it. But just to say, Tremmors 2 is it's
a decent B film.
Decent B film.
There's only one scene in that movie that was silly as far as just visuals go. Because I don't mind animatronics. I actually prefer good animatronics over CG, yes, unless the CG is done perfectly, which it rarely is, in my opinion. But the part where the Shriekers are stacking themselves on top of one another,
God,
they're making this pyramid out of themselves because they're so smart to get to the top of the building. Not only was it visually silly because the CG was just, from our modern 2013 standards, it was ridiculously terrible. But they could not be that smart.
Yeah.
They're reptilian creatures that are eons old, kind of like a crocodile. Crocodiles lived in the days of the dinosaurs. Let's face it, they got pretty small brains. They're really good at surviving, but they're not very good at problem solving.
Yeah.
Not even chimpanzees would figure out that quickly that they could stack themselves on top of each other to get on top of the building. So I guess that's my complaint number 2 as far as plot goes.
Oh, and also, smart little bastards.
Yeah, way too smart. Unrealistically smart.
Burt
But if they
Gummer's-
were aliens, it would work. That's where they messed up.
Yes.
They made them come from Earth. Now, if you have an alien species, they can do whatever you want them to do. But if they're Earthborn, they have to, they have to live by the set standards that Earth creatures live by.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, folks, if you want to see Tremmors 2, go to your Walmart or go to any store.
Go to your incredibly local Walmart.
And well, also...
Pick any one of the 5 that are around you.
And now, here's the thing. It comes in box set. You can get Tremmors 1, Tremmors 2, and you could basically go throw Tremmors 4, Tremmors 3, Tremmors 4 in the trash and just keep Tremmors 2 and 1 and pretend like there was never a sequel.
Or you could just go on Netflix and probably stream them both live for $8 a month.
Yeah, $8 a month.
Hey, maybe Netflix will give us some money for that one.
Well, folks, this is a movie review, and we
review it?
We review it
Because we have nothing
else
better
to do.
Adios, soul!